With the popularity of streaming services at an all-time high and digital sales rising, Blu-ray and DVD sales are now at an all-time low, with reports stating that they've seen this format's sales half over the past 5 years. This dip in physical media sales extends even further than movies, though, with digital purchases of video games overtaking physical games. And with the upcoming launch of the next console generation, including versions that will exclusively play digital games, it's clear that the future seems to be pushing to an all-digital one. The question I'm left with is, why? At one point, video game launches were so big that there would be people lining up at the door just to be the first to get their hands on the newest video game. But now, nobody's going to be waiting outside fighting the elements when they can just as easily order it from their console in the comfort of their own home. And what about DVD and Blu-ray sales? I mean, they usually come with a code for a digital version of the film anyways, right? It would seem a better option would be to buy the physical version that basically comes with 2 copies of the film for the price of 1. But then, why aren't most people doing it? Well, for starters, there are pros to owning your games and movies digitally. For one, you're not limited by constantly having to take your media collection with you everywhere you go. A streaming service with all your movies and TV shows that you've purchased can be accessed from anywhere where there's a stable internet connection. A quick example. These crates contain a large portion of my personal collection of games, movies, and shows. Takes up quite a bit of space, right? Well, this 5 terabyte drive is capable of storing far more than both of these crates combined, all while being able to fit right into your pocket. Even most cell phones nowadays can hold a variety of media without ever becoming an inconvenience to store or take with you wherever you go. But as far as I see it, this is where most of the goods end. A big issue with owning your media digitally is that you're essentially at the mercy of whatever service you bought it from. Let's say if you were to purchase a game or a movie from a service and that service were to choose to delist it, you're out of luck. No more getting back that copy of Shrek Forever After I bought on the Zune store. I don't know,
They
man.
made a fourth track?
Yeah, they made a 4th Shrek. That's the takeaway from this. That's the thing you decided to focus on? The 4th Shrek?
Yeah.
Not everything else that I talked about, the fact that I, invested into a dying marketplace,
Outside of your family, who bought us in?
Bill Gates?
Mm.
I mean, he had to buy a Zune. But seriously, all joking aside, the possibility of you one day not being able to access a game or movie that you paid for is a real fear. Not even including services that were doomed to fail from the start, this happens even on successful platforms.
Let's go back to 2006, and let's say we purchase Super Mario 64 digitally on the Nintendo Wii. Now, if we were to go play the game for a little bit, we beat it, and we delete it to make room for other digital games. If we take that same Wii, try to hook it up to the internet in 2020, and attempt to re-download that game we spent money on, we would not be able to get that game because Nintendo shut down the servers for their Wii shop channel, so now you cannot access any of those old games that you purchased digitally. Second disadvantage for getting digital only games is that you have very little options in the way of reselling them and getting your money back. With digital games, if you were to purchase a game from an online platform, 9 times out of 10, you're going to be spending money and not getting any of it back. Now, there are some platforms like Steam that give you the option to refund the product if A, you've played for it for less than 2 hours, and B, you have owned the product for less than 2 weeks. However, once you go for the refund, you're not making any profit back. If you spent $15 for a game and you refund it, you're only getting your money back, so you make zero profit. But with a game that you buy physically, there's a chance that that game can become a rarity of sorts. Whereas you spend $60 for a game in 2001, 20, 30 years later, it turns out that game's worth $100.
All right, so there are also downsides with physical media. You could lose this disc, and that's always sucks. Like if you lose your favorite game, then you're kind of screwed there. But whereas if you have your stuff digitally, it's all in one library. Just takes a few presses of your remote to access it. Some other disadvantages, you can scratch the disc, which would render it unplayable. You'd be skipping through it constantly, having it pause when you don't want it to. That's also a bad thing. If it's a video game, you could corrupt your data that way. And so making all that progress and having that taken away because you scratched the disc would be a real bummer too. So when it comes to the question of digital only consoles, I think it would have to be a dramatic price difference for me to go that path. Because the way with the new PlayStation 5 that just came out, I got the disc version. because I really like PlayStation games, like Ghost of Tsushima that just came out recently, the God of War sequel that's coming out. Like those are games that I'm gonna want physically, just because I love them so much. Like I want to be able to open up the box and see that disc there, just to know like this is mine. It's just like it's like a feeling that you get, like just to know that you have this thing.
So while it's clear that in the future physical media will not be nearly as relevant as it once was, to some people, it'll never die. It'll always be around. For as long as we want.